and Tonya are my morning coffee.
All right, guys. Welcome to an evening edition, our My Morning Coffee After Dark. We are so excited to be here. This is actually our first After Dark in 2021. And we have an amazing guest, as we usually do. Super excited to have her. I'm going to let her tell her story, but I want to say, um, absolutely love our authors, right? Storytelling is the epitome of who we are. It helps people connect with us. It helps people remember us. And hopefully, it has an impact on your life. So, today, I'm going to bring you Miss Bianca Williams, and she's going to talk about her books, her author life, her story, and how it has changed her life. So, without further ado, let's get into what's in your cup. We still have to find out what's in our cups, how you've been, what's going on with you.
I'm doing well. So what's in my cup? I've got mint tea with honey this evening. So one of my favorites. I drink it in the morning and in the evening. So, but I'm doing well. I can't complain.
I love it.
But,
So mint tea, you're not a coffee drinker?
No, not a coffee drinker. I used to drink coffee a while ago, but then it's like the caffeine, so I have to go something with no caffeine now. I think, are we frozen? Oh, no.
Okay, we lost the sound for a minute. Are you there, Tonya?
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Awesome. So with 3 books, I'm guessing you have plenty of energy and you don't need the caffeine.
Well,
is that true?
I would say that is true. I would say that's very true. Writing a book does take a lot of energy. And yeah, it was all, I would say, passion. I would say the first book, it was anger that fueled me. And then I think the second book, it was I was just on an emotional tidal wave. That's kind of what kept me going to get the books out.
I love it. So I can't wait to get that anger.
I know.
Passion.
Yes. I think anger.
Miss Gia, what's in your cup? What you got going on?
Girl, I have some coffee in my cup. Here it is. And I only have it in my cup. I have coffee this evening because I'm trying to stay warm. It's a little cold. So I just got some coffee to warm me up. I'm normally a 1 cup of coffee person a day. And I don't really drink the coffee for the caffeine. I just drink it for the art of drinking coffee. And I also, too, it was something that I did as a kid with my grandfather. So I kind of that's why I do it, because my coffee is never strong. I'm more of a cream with a little hint of coffee in it. So that's what I have in my cup. I'm just looking forward to hearing from Bianca her books and stuff, and to talk about how she got into writing a book. And she said something about the first book was about anger, and then the second one's about passion. And it's funny how I think anger, when we're angry about things, it lights a fire under us, and we start doing things and stuff. Because I'm kind of like that sometimes my design when I'm angry about some shit. And since it's after dark, I can cuss tonight, so I'm probably cussing.
All right.
When I be angry about some shit, then I just go in my room and I start creating fabulous stuff. So that anger and passion, I think have a relationship. They do. It's relationship, anger and passion, and they go well together. I think because I make some of my best stuff is when I'm mad about some stuff. I'm mad about some folks. Okay.
Yes.
So here's the question, ladies. Do you think that sometimes people actually welcome anger and those types of negative energies to kind of fuel their passion?
Creative? I think so.
I think exactly. I think a lot of creative people. Well, I think a lot of great things come out of anger, especially in the creative tip. And so I think, creative people do welcome that, because I'm sure, like Tonya, with your book, was probably written out of, you had some anger, some things that you still were harboring, probably, from your childhood that you were angry about. And that's probably springboarded you to write your book. So, yes. I think it does.
Yeah, I think so.
Like,
I said,
people that play with drama and they welcome drama and toxic behavior into their lives because they feel like they get productivity out of it. Like, we know people that love drama. Okay, let's not play with this.
That's different, Tonya. That's different from what me and Bianca on. That's some different kind of stuff, girl. No, we ain't talking about that. We ain't talking about them crazy people that just want drama all the damn time. No, we ain't got no room for them kind. But yeah,
because I like my peace. I like, for the most part, I live a very peaceful life. However, if it's quiet, nothing's going on, and I don't feel creative at that moment. If something happens, whether it's at work or in my personal life, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that energy and I'm going to put it somewhere. And that's when like you said, you're having a bad day, just go do something creative. And like you said, something great comes out of it. It really does.
Prime example today, Tonya. I was a little bit angry, a little bit upset because they messed with my money at work, right? My check, check. So I had to get on the phone and talk to some people today, right? So I was a little bit angry about some stuff. So hence, I don't made about 3 sweatshirts since then. See, so.
That is hilarious.
I mean, I guess it's better than using your gun. So okay, we'll let you go ahead and make. We'll do that. Yes, use that. Yes. So tonight I'm incognito, so you have to guess what's in here. Okay, so yeah, that's the kind of day.
I know what's in there. Is it some cab?
A little bit, maybe. Just maybe.
a little bit.
It's very, it's one of those days.
Right.
So let's get into out of my business. Bianca, talk to us about your books.
Let's get in Bianca's business, girl.
I'm trying to get all in your business.
All right. So I wrote a trilogy. It's actually 3 books. I just released the 3rd one in 2020. At the end of 2020, I used the time of the pandemic to go ahead and finish the 3rd book. But the series is titled Sidelined, and it's actually inspired by true events. Part 1 is called Sidelined, the draft. Part 2 is Sidelined, the penalty, and Part 3 is Sidelined, the contract. And it's all about this up-and-coming event planner who lands her first client, which happens to be an NFL superstar, and makes the ultimate rookie mistake of mixing business with pleasure. So this title is inspired by true events. It's based off of my life and my experiences in my earlier years, in my 30s. In 30s, you think you kind of know it all, and you really don't. But you think, like, by the time you're 30, you're like, I've got this in the bag, but you're still doing like really dumb stuff. And so after the experience, I always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't have a story. And it wasn't until I had this crazy experience that I had this vision for this project. So I went through the whole experience. It was a horrendous breakup. And then that's when I got the vision for the story. It was through the breakup. And I just took to writing. Like, as soon as I saw it, it was just almost like a data download. And I just wrote the outline for 4 books. And then turned it into 3 because trilogies are popular. But it's a story about love, true love, loss, and it's filled with lots of drama. But it's also about forgiveness.
So it's a book about, it's really about what we all go through. Sounds like all of us have probably gone through something similar in our lives and stuff. But just know this: you said you were in your 30s and all this happened, and you think you got it together and stuff. But girl, I'm sure there's some of the same things that's in your book is going on with women in their 40s and in their 50s to this day. So it's all ages.
Yes.
You said when we got started, you talked about your passion and you were upset and you were angry. Yes. What was the trigger for that? Was it you or was it him?
It was, I will say in the beginning at that time, I was angry with him. And I was holding on to the anger and I didn't know what to do with it. It was, I was extremely emotional because of the situation. If I tell you what happened, I'll kind of ruin the book series for you. But let's just say that the breakup was really bad. The way that it happened, it just should not have, no one should ever do that to someone. And,
wait a minute, girl, wait a minute. It wasn't no text breakup, was it?
No, it was.
Okay.
It was. Should I tell you?
Okay.
I don't.
We don't want to give it away, but
Okay.
Yeah.
We want to talk about it because there's going to be people that are listening to this and watching this, and you might hear it. And most people are actually looking for ways to navigate through similar situations, right?
Yeah.
That's something that's going to entice people to really want to find out, because you're here, you're smiling, ain't nobody dead, you went to jail.
Right.
So most people are trying to figure out, how did you get out of that angry, emotional mess to be where you are right now? Now you have 3 books. I mean, my God, I know women that have not been violent and don't wind up well because they don't know what to do with that anger, that passion, that disappointment, and sometimes in self, not just in him, because we recognize where we fell short and allowed ourselves to be in that situation. So I think it's important, even if you could just give us a snippet, so that people understand that they can actually come to you or your story for ways to navigate out of some of the messy mess that they in right now.
Yeah.
And also talk about too, because you said it in the beginning, you blamed him, and then I'm sure over time you realized you had a lot to do with this. So talk about that too, if you can, how you went from blaming him to putting the blame, I guess, on or holding yourself accountable to what transpired.
Yes. So the breakup happened, and he was married to someone else in 2 weeks. And he did not tell me. I found out through someone else. So could you imagine? After 4 years. So it was bad. It was bad. I was devastated. I mean, devastated. I had to go to work that week. I cried. I literally cried every day for 2 years. Like I was devastated because in addition to him getting married, I could not have contact with him at all, like at all. So there was never a conversation after I read about it in the newspaper. So I can't even imagine what that feels like. When someone, and it's interesting because 4 years prior to that actually happening to me, a friend had shared it happened to one of her girlfriends. She was like, she was dating this guy and he got married on her. And I was just like, what? I was like, I've never heard of that. I was like, that sounds crazy. And I was like, that sounds like the worst thing ever. And oh my God, I would absolutely die if something like that happened to me. Fast forward 2 years.
And she was falling for a guy while she was married. And this guy that she was all in for wound up texting her. And when she found him, he was married.
Wow.
So clearly it's a thing.
Yes, so it's a thing. And
what are we missing as women when I don't hear that happening to guys? I've heard that already about women 4 or 5 times. So what's going on with us?
Well, you know what I'm not gonna say there's nothing wrong with us, Tonya, because Bianca, that has happened a lot, and you're not the first person or the second person. I know people that's kind of happened to too. And what I can say is that sometimes we as women, our desire to want to be in a relationship, we overlook some of the signs, some of the things that are there. We overlook them and we don't speak them out loud. We don't talk to them about. We don't talk to it. We don't talk about it to nobody, because if we say it out loud or talk to somebody, we have to really deal with what we already know. And I think if you think back on this, you'll probably say, I knew way back when this was probably, this was going on or something was going on because of X, Y, and Z. But we don't never talk about it. and we let it go on for long periods of time. And to say there's something, I don't want to say something wrong with us. I just think is that we put so much into relationships or being in a relationship, and because we want that, we want to feel important or to somebody else, and so we will overlook things and go in and be in relationships for long periods of time with people that are having other relationships with other people, and we have no knowledge because we're not asking the questions. So I tell people now, you have to go into this stuff almost like, I'm a police officer, right? So you got to go this stuff like you about to interrogate somebody. You in the interrogation room, you done got the suspect, you done caught him. Like that's how you got to treat it. You know what? I done caught the guy. He the suspect now, but I got to get all these questions, get this information out. And you don't be afraid to ask the questions and don't be afraid to get the answers. It might not be the answer you want to hear, but you rather get it now than to get it later and have your heart broken because you overlooked things and you failed to ask questions.
Yeah, and that's true. And it's also in the book I write about, or the message that I want everyone to take from the book is just to trust your gut, trust your intuition because, and yes, you're right. When I wrote the books and I really, even especially in the second book, because the first book is all about them falling in, is a story about how they fell in love. And then the second book gets into the nitty gritty. Like you said, when you're seeing those things, when you're asking those questions, you're afraid, you're embarrassed, you don't want to tell anybody, you don't want to talk to your girlfriend, you know it deep down inside that something's up, but you're listening to what they're saying. They ain't telling you the truth. They're saying whatever you want to hear to make things okay. But it's just like, deep down inside, something's not right. And it's just like, if you would just trust that inner voice, then, you won't have to go through some of the things that you go through in these relationships. So,
once you found out that he was married, did you reach out to him? Did you still reach out to him?
I did once. I did once because he got injured. I mean, he's on TV every Sunday. I mean, he's an athlete. And then after that, I didn't. But
can you talk a little bit about the beginning stages? Like you say, there was the love affair. That's the book one. It's about you guys getting together in love. Like, how did he woo you? Because that's what it really comes down to. They good at wooing us, girl. They. They
are. I would say early on when we met, we actually worked together. Okay. So actually we couldn't stand each other. Well, I couldn't stand him. He got on my nerves. And so it was like this, he gets on my nerves, he's trifling, he has all these women, like, he's an athlete, like, no, I'm your everyday girl next door. I'm working at a bank, I'm a financial analyst during the day, doing like event planning at night, had no interest. I mean, I've always pretty much been around athletes, just because my best friend is does lots of charity stuff. So we've always been around them. And so I wasn't like wowed at all, the fame and the fortune as far as that's concerned. But I just didn't like him. And then he just kept being around, kept coming around, constantly coming around, constantly calling me, how are you, checking on me here and there. And then eventually we just became friends. And then hanging out a little bit. Oh, let's go here, let's go there, let's go to dinner, let's go to the basketball game, let's come to my football games, and so it just constantly, increased. You're constantly seeing somebody every day. You're talking to them every single day, and we're having game night, and constantly spending that time together. Eventually, a bond started to form. And then I also had a young daughter at the time, and she was also completely enamored. So they got very, very close.
So do you think, because you said at the beginning, you said you couldn't stand them, you didn't like them. And I think a lot of women experience this. Do you think during that time, if you can reflect back, because you gave in and you guys, got together, hooked up. Do you think it has something to do with the fact that, because you didn't really have, you weren't dating anybody, I'm assuming, before you met this guy. You wasn't in a relationship. You were kind of by yourself raising your child. And sometimes that happens when we're alone, and then Mr. comes along, and he's probably Mr. Wrong, but because we don't got nothing else going on,
Right.
You know, we give in, like, you know, no, I can't stay. I don't really like him and stuff. But hell, he's the only one calling me. He's the only one asking me out. You know, he's the only one taking me out. So I'm gonna give him girl. You know, I'm gonna give him a chance, right? And then you give him a chance, and then, you know, that whole woo factor comes on. You know, like you said, it kind of wears you down after a while, and you kind of go into it. You know, well, you know what? I have nothing else. You know, he's not that bad. I have nothing else to do. I'm gonna give him a chance, and then you guys hooked up. You know, and stuff. You think that had a lot to do with it because you were by yourself?
I don't know, because I was seeing someone, not saying that the person I was seeing before him was any good, because he was awful. Maybe that had something to do with it. There wasn't a long period of time between the person that I was seeing prior to him and then the person prior to him was horrible. So maybe I should have spent more time alone, and then coming off of that, he was better than that person. But I will say, you know, again, with someone constantly being around, because I didn't like the persona, right, that he had to put on, with this air that he had to put on around everybody. But when it was just he and I, he became this completely different person. And then that was the person that I kind of fell for. And it was interesting because when we would be in large groups again, he would become that person, because that's kind of who he had to be to everybody else. But with me, he was somebody completely different. And they were like, who is this guy? You know, my best friend was like, what? When I was telling her some things, she was like, no way. Like, no way. So, yeah.
Listen, I want to find out from you if he was actually selling you a dream or if you were just dreaming.
Oh, he was definitely selling a dream. He was definitely selling a dream.
Because sometimes we can make up stories in our head, negative or positive.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you say that too, because I talk about that in the third book, you know, as she's processing everything, right? When she's going through the forgiveness phase and the processing and trying to process the anger and all the crazy feelings, that she asks those questions, you know, like, was I in this alone, or did I make this all up myself? Like, what is going on here? Like, why am I so broken? And, you know, this person seems like they're fine and they've moved on with their life. Well, you know, the story does come full circle again. So she does see him again, and they have this conversation. And you find out all the background of what happened, how everything happened, and, you know, the story kind of ends. It's a bittersweet ending, but it's really good. And, but yeah, no, he definitely sold a dream. And like I said, the third book is called The Contract, because he made him sign a contract. Like, are you really in this? Like, are you really serious about this? Yeah.
Now, you talked about having a daughter. You talked about having a daughter. If your daughter came to you with this story, what would you tell her?
You said if my daughter came to me
with this story later in life, your daughter told you that this had happened to her, what kind of advice would you give her?
Wow. I honestly, I would be shocked, first of all. And then I would just tell her that, you know, she has to do some forgiveness work. So it depends on where she would be at in her life at that time when she thinks that this is happening for her. If she's like broken and she comes to me broken, then I would kind of help her through the healing process. Basically tell her that, you know, she has to do the work. She has to forgive him, and she has to forgive herself. Because I know holding on to the negative feelings, she won't be able to move past it or get into another relationship in a healthy way. She'll always be carrying that old baggage into every relationship.
Right.
How did the breakup? Because you said him and your daughter kind of got close, and that kind of helped. That kind of also played the role in you guys getting together and everything. Mm-hmm. How did it affect? Did it affect your daughter when you guys broke up? And if it did, how did you deal with that with her?
It did impact her, because not only did he cut me off, he also cut her off as well. Mm-hmm. So she was also like a casualty of war, unfortunately. And for the longest time, she didn't say anything at all. And I would kind of talk to her about it and say, hey, you know, do you want to talk? And she would just kind of shut down, and she would journal and really wouldn't want to talk about it. It wasn't until she was probably about 16, like older more mature teenager, that she kind of opened up and she said, when he left, he didn't just, leave you, he left me too. So I had to like start having these conversations with her. She knew I was writing the story. And so we would just kind of talk about the situation and how she felt about it. And it really, really to get her to open up and express herself, because all that time she was just keeping everything bottled in and it wasn't doing her any justice at all. So the best thing we did was just to constantly talk about it. And I would say you have to forgive him. You have to forgive him to move on.
Wow. So listen, you have 3 amazing books. I'm guessing that you have plenty more to say. You can't just become an author and then disappear. So what's next for you?
So what's next? It's interesting because I've got people saying they want a book 4. They're like, it can't end like this. We need more. So I've kind of been on the fence to see. Could potentially be a book 4, but I don't know. I think I'm going to end on a high note and just kind of leave it where it is. But I do have a follow-on book that I want to work on, which is called Know the Place or Get Sidelined, which is my motto.
Okay.
Life, love, and relationships. And so it's more of, I guess you can call it like a self-help manual, but I share different stories that have happened to me throughout my life, whether it was, at work, being the only one, or just overall life in general. I had my daughter at like 20 years old. Not a lot of people have their daughters young and then go off to college. And then I have this whole crazy story how, I was working full time. I was going to school full time with full load, graduated with honors, was doing all that with a 2-year-old. And so just kind of want to share those stories with people to kind of motivate them. And so it's life, love, and relationships, and just talk about, the pitfalls and the mistakes that I've made in relationships. Like you said, not seeing the signs, knowing things that they're not asking the right questions. And maybe by sharing my story, I can help other women out there who find themselves in these type of situations.
Hey, did he think about the books? And if so, what has been his input, or not at all?
Yeah, I know he read the first book because I did tell him about it.
Okay.
When I wrote the first book and I shared it with a friend, she made the recommendation. She was like, I think you should tell him about it. I was like, why? I ain't talk to him, who cares what he thinks about it?
Right.
But no, I came around because I do care about him. We're not friends, but we're not enemies. So I let him read it, and he, of course, he hated the character. He hated the character that was inspired by him. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if he read the second or the third book that just came out. I haven't gotten any hate text messages or anything like that, so I don't know.
So it sounds like you guys are still friends.
No, we're not. Not at all.
Okay.
It's more so pleasantries.
So can we say this? Do you have any interaction with him currently? Right now, or not right now, but since you wrote the book, or since the relationship has been over, have you been in a room or in an area, in a place where he's at or something like that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Gotcha.
No contact.
Let the people know where they can keep in touch with you, where they can follow you, where they can show their fandom, and all good things.
So I'm on all social media platforms at Be Will Books, to include Clubhouse, which is new. I don't have moderated anything yet, but yes, Be Will Books, and my website is also Be Will Books. My books, all 3 books, can be purchased on Amazon or on my website, sidelinedbooks.com, and or anywhere pretty much.
Are we looking at a screenplay here?
I'm sorry.
Screenplay. Are we looking at a screenplay movie?
I hope so. Everyone that reads it definitely says that they can see it. They're like, I can see this on the screen. So we'll see. I'm definitely considering it.
So make sure you just post it and you come back and visit, because we want to hear all about the things that Sidelined has to offer.
Well,
Yes.
before we go, I'll let you go. Maybe you can tell the viewers, like, because I'm sure there might be viewers out there, aspiring authors out there who want to write a book and get started. Like, what did you do to get started, or how can a person who's thinking about or would mind writing a book get started?
So I know they say this, and you're like, I don't want to hear it, but you just got to write.
Okay.
You just have to write. Just be disciplined. Just be consistent. I know it's hard, but that's how you get started. You write and you just keep writing. And if you feel like you got writer's block, or you feel like you hit a wall, shift and do something else that inspires you, whether it's listening to a favorite song or watching a favorite movie, just something to inspire you. But the best thing you can do is just write. That is the best advice.
Okay, well, that's good advice.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Miss Bianca, to talk to us about Sidelined. We hope that we continue. Yes, we want to make sure that we stay in contact. Anything you have that we can support you in, we definitely want you to keep us informed about those things. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You two ladies have a great evening.
You too.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Monday, we get started with Black History Month. Oh my God, you're not going to want to miss that. Make sure that you show up, because we are about to show out. All right, y'all.
Yes.
We'll see you on Monday.
All right.